In this class we're going to look at the growth strategy. A business needs growth in order to maintain its competitive advantage over its rivals. A business needs to be seen to be developing its product, developing its market, be innovative, good design, meeting customer needs. It needs to be growing. It needs to be developing in the marketplace. And there are possible sources of corporate growth. Innovation and invention is one set of ideas, or one set of sources. Really, innovation and invention are ideas. They start with ideas, which overlaps with entrepreneurship, which I'll talk about in a second. But there is a slight difference between innovation and invention. Invention is discovery. It's development of a new product. It's discovering some new way of doing something. And innovation is the commercial application of that idea, of that discovery. It's applying it in the market. It's commercialization of the idea. So this is one possible distinction between innovation and invention. Invention is coming up with a new discovery, a new idea, and making it so it works, so some new product. And innovation is enabling that product to be sold in the market. It's innovating it. Now that's you'll see various definitions for these two words, slight mutations of definitions in different texts, but that's what we will deal with. We'll deal with invention being a new idea and a new product, and innovation the commercialization of the product. Now entrepreneurship, well, that's a person in the business who is alert to opportunities. This is the person that comes up with the idea for the invention, that comes up with let's do this and let's see what happens if we do that, and out of it comes a new product or a new service. And this is alertness to opportunities, and that's a source of growth, because a good idea becomes a useful service or a useful product, and that may be sold in the market, which enables the business to grow. And there are also economies of scale, economies due to size. Now, economies due to size, these are economies due to companies becoming bigger and being able to negotiate good discounts on purchases. Larger companies, when they've grown, are able to deal with the banks more effectively and negotiate better terms off the banks. They're able to have specialist production departments and good distribution outlets and so on and so on. So larger companies are able to reduce the per unit cost of the product. Of course, companies can get too big, in which case we have diseconomies of scale, diseconomies due to size. Sometimes companies overgrow, they become unwieldy, they become bureaucratic, they become top-heavy, they become sluggish and not responsive to market needs, and so you can have companies growing too big. But small companies, when they get larger, tend to become more efficient. There are two types of business growth: internal, or what's known as organic growth. This is growth financed within the business. And there is also external growth, which may involve mergers and acquisitions. External growth could also be raising finance from external sources, borrowing from the bank or borrowing from shareholders. Let's start by looking at the internal growth. This refers to growth financed out of retained profits and shareholder reinvestment. So, internal growth, the company saves up part of its profits and uses those savings to invest in a new product or to innovate some discovery or some idea, or to bring about growth in the business. Of course, it could also ask its shareholders to put some more investment into the business and finance it that way. It's still within the business, so it's still internal. It's still classified as organic growth. Efficiencies are sought to develop internal economies with a view to increasing the return on investment. So it could have internal growth through greater efficiencies, looking at its core competencies, looking at what it does best, and playing on its strengths, critically looking at all its activities and cutting out wastage, cutting out anything which is not essential, cutting the business down to the bare bones, making it a lean business, a lean, efficient business. This will free up resources which can be used for investment. Now, there are problems with internal growth. First of all, the sources of internal finance may be insufficient to fully implement the plan. It depends on what the plan is. If the plan is to develop an entirely new product, then it may require significant amounts of capital. Perhaps the existing capital does not have the capacity to produce the new product. Perhaps the existing capital is running flat out. It's been used optimally. If it is, it will not have the capacity to produce extra output. So the new product will require new capital. That may make it extremely expensive. It may require new premises, new stores, new distribution. So the internal sources of finance may not be sufficient. The implementation of plans based on this source of financing may be spread over a long period of time. So the implementation of the plan may run over an extremely long period of time. And it may become frustrated. If it runs for too long, the management may become almost bored with it or frustrated about progress. It may lead to internal fighting and strife and problems within the business. So it would be seen as a constant drain on resources, this new idea. And if it's a complicated idea, a complicated procedure, this new investment, it may take a long time. It's seen as a drain on resources for a long time. There are issues, and some of the issues may revolve around the fact that management is working to finance a speculative new idea, and not everyone may be happy about that. Also, if it's spread over a long period of time, generally speaking, many people will know about it. The competitors will know about it. And if they think it's a good idea, and if they have the resources, they may jump in first. They've taken the idea, but they jump in first, and they may get a jump on the market. They may have secured the market outlets and established a brand before the business got its act together. So competitors are a problem. If they know that the business is working on a new idea, and they find out about the new idea, and they think about it and do some research themselves, and if they have the resources, they may move first. So the idea may have been stolen, in effect. Now, there are sources of external growth, as I said. The main focus in this case is on the size, on the business size and position in the market. A big business with a good market position is in a better position to finance growth, finance a new business or a new product. But there are various sources of finance that may be used in this context. For example, the business may merge with other companies or other businesses, or it may acquire other businesses and thereby get access to their capital, their assets, and restructure the business to develop a new product. That's a possibility. Of course, it's more complex because the owners of the other businesses may negotiate tough terms. Negotiations are always an issue. And acquisition is a problem as well. If a business is going to acquire another business, it must have agreement from their management and shareholders, and the terms of getting the agreement may be quite severe, and it may leave little scope for developing a new product or restructuring the business. Depends on the negotiations and what's agreed. Forming alliances and mutually beneficial trading relationships is a possibility. If a business has a good idea for a new product, it may talk to other businesses and try to get them involved so that, if you like, a totally new business is set up for the purpose of producing the new product. But this new business is partly owned by several other businesses. So it's an alliance. They've come together to produce this new product. It's a possibility. But again, negotiations to do that will be complicated and perhaps very difficult. It may be the case that the business comes up with a good idea and it patents the idea, it gets a legal protection for the idea, and then it franchises it. It offers it to other businesses to produce the product and sell it and market it and so on, and it simply charges a fee for each item produced. Possible. So it's the franchising model put into play. Now this way that the business does not have to finance investment in machinery, in capital, in premises, in transport. It doesn't have to finance all of that. It just simply comes up with an idea, protects the idea, and then franchises the idea. Another source of external growth is a new share issue. It asks shareholders to put more investment into the business. Well, if the shareholders know the purpose of the investment and they agree it's a good idea, they may put the extra resources in. But there's a need to persuade them. There's also an issue here that in persuading them and explaining the new idea to them, they're also perhaps explaining it to the competitors who may be listening. So there are problems in getting a new business off the ground. Probably the best way to do it is out of retained profits, doing it quietly. But it does critically depend on the size of the investment required. If the new product requires a lot of investment, that means a lot of problems. So we have two forms of growth, internal and external, and there are issues associated with both that we need to be aware of. But that's all I'm going to do on this session, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.